You might already know this, but I am the world's leading expert in my own opinion. So without further ado, here are my top 5 books that I talked about in 2022. Hi there fellow roleplayers and game masters, my name is Mr. Taras and this is still your go-to YouTube channel for anything third-party Dungeons & Dragons. And I again talked about a ton of books this year, but I've kinda, like every year, selected my 5 favorite books from 5 categories that I like the best after spending some more time with them. Now, I looked at usability and the books that I actually get to use. A little disclaimer, if the book is on my channel, if I talked about it on my channel, I liked it. So this top 5 does not take away from the greatness that the other books are. These are just the books that I personally like the best. So I selected 5 categories for this, which is the best bestiary, the best campaign setting, the best Dungeon Masters Guild module, the best adventure compilation, and believe me, it was a big year for adventure compilations, and the best resource book, by which I mean a book that actually helps you build better games. So without further ado, I just want to jump into it and then spend Christmas with my family. And let's start with the obvious one. And yes, I talked about this and reviewed it on my channel this week, and it is the Tome of Beasts 3 by Kobold Press. Now, I've talked about a few bestiaries this year. I talked about the Dread of the Cursed bestiary, about Revenge of the Horse bestiary, a few bestiaries on the Dungeon Masters Guild and on Drive-Thru RPG, but this bestiary beats all of them just by a long shot. Now, the reason I like this thing so much, this is probably the one bestiary that I will take to all of my games for the rest of my life. It is pretty thick, it has a lot of monsters, but what I like most about it is actually 2 things. First of all, it is the 4th book, the 4th bestiary by Kobold Press. Although it's called the Tome of Beasts 3, it is the 4th book by Kobold Press, and they fixed every little problem I had with the previous bestiaries and slapped that all into like this masterpiece. The other reason I like it very much is because the versatility of all the creatures, the usability of all the creatures in here. The more I flip through this, the more ideas I get, and they have a lot of different creatures for creature categories, which makes game building and campaign building really easy. For example, there's different kinds of dragons, there's different kind of drakes, different kind of swarms, giants, and fey ladies, fey lords, devils even I think. There's even ogres, all kinds of different ogres. So if your players need to go into like a giant city or a giant country, you have all kinds of different giants you can pit against your players or use for role-playing purposes, all within one book. So this is the one book, the one bestiary that I like the most, not only this year, but probably ever. So let's talk about my favorite campaign setting that I talked about in the year of 2022. And although I talked about the Midgard campaign setting on my channel a lot, and I still love it, I still run games in it, I still play games in it, and I still love it to death, I also talked about that one a lot in the previous year. So I think it's just time to move on and to talk about a campaign setting that I still can't believe I didn't know the existence of until like a couple of weeks or just a couple of months ago. And that is the Thrones and Bones campaign setting by Lou Anders, a personal friend of mine who sent that stuff to me, and I immediately completely fell in love with it. Now, what is it? It is a Northlands type Nordic campaign setting. Well, the Thrones and Bones campaign setting is actually a enormous campaign setting, but the Norngard part is actually the part that's already released, is more of a Nordlands campaign setting, Viking-esque feeling thing. And if you know me, you know that I love these kinds of campaign settings. I know that I really love the Northlands by Kobold Press. I really would like to see a 5th edition book for the Northlands by Kobold Press. I really like Svilland. There's a few others that I absolutely love, but this one, I don't know, the amount of content you get for the money you're spending on it is just ridiculous. First of all, there are 3 main books. There is the campaign setting, there is the player guide, there are a bunch of adventures, and there's even Lou Anders did a Kickstarter for this just a couple of weeks ago, where he kickstarted a starting adventure called Vengeance of the Valraven, and it is a starting adventure which you can play completely loose in your own campaign setting or whatever, but it actually also introduces people to the Thrones and Bones campaign setting. And if you're into Vikings and that kind of stuff, and cold and bitterness and mountains and whatever, this one is something you really need to check out. Also, it comes with a bit of a content warning. Yes, buying this stuff, backing the Kickstarter, for example, comes with literally a content warning that says something in the likes of, be warned, or like there's content in here that some people might find like really scary or whatever, so it is a lot darker and more grim than a lot of the other campaign settings. For some reason, I talked about a heck of a lot of Dungeon Masters Guild content on my channel this year, and for that reason alone, I'm kinda going to cheat with this one. I'm going to select 2 modules that I like best, and I know that's cheating in a top 5, but I'm still doing it because this is my channel. I can do whatever the heck I want. So the first one I want to talk about is the An Elf and an Orc Had a Little Baby module, which is basically 2 modules, and I've just recently found out there's a 3rd module. Maybe it's released, maybe it's on the way, I don't know for sure, but basically what it does is you can create your own subrace from selecting 2 parents. Now, these parents don't have to like per se give birth to you, because that's sometimes not possible. It's more about the people who raised you and the traits you get as a character from those people who raised you. And you can basically, from the books, across all of the books, the 1, 2, and 3, you can select whatever race you want as your parents to be, and get traits from those races. And the system they use for that is absolutely super easy to use, and after using it a few times, I can say it is pretty balanced. The second module on the Dungeon Masters Guild that I want to talk about is the Bloodied and Brused Monster Manual by Anna Gregersen. Now, what is this? This is basically, Anna Gregersen has created a bunch of PDFs where she takes monsters from the official Wizards of the Coast books and gives those monsters powers and even weaknesses when they are bloodied. Now, the bloodied condition isn't really a thing in 5th edition, but the idea is that once a creature goes below 50% or is at or below 50% of their health, they become bloodied. And what Anna Gregersen does is all kinds of abilities and all kinds of stuff can trigger once a creature reaches that point, and that just gives an extra level of excitement, randomness, metagaming to the monsters a lot of the players already know and have battled countless of times. I actually use this PDF quite a lot. Quickly look at it and take a picture of it with my phone if I know I'm going to use a creature from the official monster manual or any of the other books, and I know Anna Gregersen has created a bunch of monster weaknesses and monster strength for when they are bloodied. This can go from like entering a frenzy and doing more damage but lowering its armor class, to falling prone, to there is even a creature where if you hit it and it becomes bloodied, it just automatically once recharges its breath weapon. So there's all kinds of random stuff that can happen that your players will not expect, which really brings another level of excitement for, especially for those players who are kind of like not that new to the game. So Anna Gregersen is, by the way, a brilliant designer, a brilliant writer, so make sure to check that one out if your players are metagaming too much or you just want more excitement at your table. 2022 was really big on adventure compilations. For example, just a few examples, there was the Freak Show collection by Jeff C. Stevens and Remley Farr, which is an absolutely cool set of adventures. There's 3 adventures in here: Happy Jack's Funhouse, Annalisa's Revenge, and the Madhouse of Tasha's Kiss. And it's just 3 really good horror 1-shots, 2-shots, 3-shot adventures. But it is a little bit too niche for me to actually select as maybe like the best product, and also there's only 3 adventures in there. Now then there was this book, Wondrous Expeditions by Loresmith, which has a few expeditions but is more of a tool to create your own different kind of expeditions. So it is not in a classical sense a adventure compilation. Then there was Extraordinary Expeditions by Crit Academy, which is a really good book full of extraordinary expeditions. But then there was The Tales from the Shadows by Kobold Press. And the reason I like this the best is because it is a series of adventures, if I'm not mistaken, 14 adventures that all lead up to my favorite ever adventure by Kobold Press, which is Shadows from the Dusk Queen. I've ran Shadows from the Dusk Queen so many times that I can probably play it by heart. I probably don't even need the book for it. That's how much I love it. It's my go-to adventure, short form adventure to toss my players into the game and kind of have like their own dark Legend of Zelda-esque adventure. And it's a last adventure in here, but the one in here is actually updated in a few ways, and all of the other adventures kind of lead up to it, and they have an overarching story, like an overarching magic item that kind of ties all of the adventures together. All of the adventures are set in and around the Shadow Realm, but they can all be played in your campaign, dragged and dropped in your campaign separately, or you can play them as a complete campaign. And this is actually the book that is waiting for me to pick up when I start a new group from level 1. I'm going to start them with Tales from the Shadows and try to run them through all 14 adventures and end up in Shadows from the Dusk Queen, which is just really, really good. So there are many other adventure compilations I talked about in 2022, but this one really beats all of them. And then there is a book that sits on your shelf probably for a very long time, until you need to build something spectacular. For example, a settlement. This is Spectaculair Settlements by Nord Games. This is one of those resource books, that's what I call them, resource books, that is really one of those books that sits on your shelf until you actually need it and you're ready to build something really cool and really original. Now, what is Spectaculair Settlements? Spectaculair Settlements is probably the thickest and heaviest book I have in my collection, and it is made by Nord Games. And what it gives you is a bunch of pre-made Spectaculair Settlements in different kind of like, there are trading posts, villages, towns, cities, capitals, fortresses, and more stuff. And there is an entire system, I actually did a video on this, where you can create your own Spectaculair settlement by picking stuff from tables or rolling for random stuff. And I did this, I tried this on camera and off camera several times, and at every time it just made sense, and it's just written in such a really good and just a thorough way that Spectaculair Settlements is just something that is really worth your time, worth your money. It is a big book. The amount of content you get for your money it is amazing. It's full of incredibly original art, and this one for a resource book to build better worlds, to build better cities, to build even like NPCs that are in those cities and whatever. These Spectaculair Settlements by Nord Games is really worth your money. And that is it. That was 2022 in a nutshell. And yeah, I am so eternally grateful that I get to do this every year. And I wish you the merriest of whatever holiday you celebrate. And I wish you many presents. But more importantly, I wish you the best health, the best friends, the best family you can get your hands on. I truly, legit have no words to describe that I am able to do what I do thanks to your support, your comments, your money spent on my Kickstarters. It is all the reason that I get to sit here and talk about my hobby, my favorite thing in the world outside of my family, which is Dungeons and Dragons, RPGs in general. I'm rambling, but I really, really, really mean it. I'm going to put my feet up for about a week. But until next year, bye-bye.